Well, good afternoon. It's Jim Hodgson, and today I've got Mike Amtower with me, and Gary's also here. He's going to tag along. Welcome to another episode of Fun With Aviation. We've had to do a change here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. We're going to do an F5 in action, but our other person didn't show up for this. So, hi, John. Good to see you. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the CH-53 in action today. And Mike was a crew chief on the airplane, and he was also an avionics tech. So without further ado, we're going to just go ahead and get busy. This is the interior of our CH-53. No, this is not the interior of an F5 Tiger II. So those of you who are just joining us,
well, it would fit in here.
Yeah, it would fit in here. We've had to do a change because of the scheduling issue here. So, hi Mike, hi Daniel.
Hey, how are you?
So, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with the 53, and then we'll do the walk around.
Well, I was with...
In fact, I tell you what, since they're working on the F-16, let's walk inside and try to get away from the noise a little bit. Yeah, this will be a little bit better.
All right, I was with HMH 463 in 1967 and 68, and we went to Vietnam aboard the Tripoli, the LPH-10, on our maiden voyage, and we had 24 53s on the deck and on the hangar deck, tied down, and on the way over, a Russian Bear overflew the Tripoli to take a look at what was headed toward Vietnam for the North Vietnamese, so they got a preview.
Okay. Now we're looking in here, and here for the museum, we've got some bench seats. We've got a stretcher. What would be the normal configuration for this airplane?
Normally we'd have bench seats on both sides.
And these just fold up, right?
Yeah, they fold up, and we could carry 45 American troops, fully, configured with armor and body armor and helmets, and about 100 Argents, who were quite a bit smaller.
Okay.
But basically, we inserted troops. We carried cargo. We've got a picture on the wall here showing some of the cargo. We carried artillery pieces.
Oh, here, let's show them that since we've got it here. So just go ahead and point the stuff out.
Here's some probably fuel drums. Here's a water buffalo, which is a water supply for troops, and here's an artillery piece being carried externally. And one of the interesting things about these helicopters, I don't know if people are familiar with the movie called Operation Dumbo Drop. And I was a member of that flight where we carried 2 elephants externally from Chu Lai to a Vietnamese lumber camp on the Laotian border.
Okay, this is the insignia for your squadron, right?
Right, HMH 463.
Okay, heavy haulers. And so, tell me a couple of other things. I mean, I've worked with these when I was an air liaison officer a little bit, but not a lot. But tell us about the panel here on the floor, this yellow panel.
All right, this yellow panel is referred to as the Hellhole. That's where the cargo hook is. And what it would do is it would swivel down, it would flip open, and we could carry externals connected to the cargo hook, as shown in the picture.
Okay.
And when we carried the elephant, it was carried externally down there on the hook.
Well, I know we did a thing when I was with the 4th Tank Battalion, where we also had jeeps with tow missile on them, and we externaled them.
Correct.
But the problem that they all had was they'd put the Jeep down and drop the latch, and they were breaking the windshields on all of the Jeeps because nobody.
Oh yeah, when they turned it loose.
Yeah, when they turned it loose, because nobody had much experience with that. So yeah. Mike has got now. Mike, let's give people a little bit of background. This airplane is called Patches, and you were with the squadron when this all took place, right?
Well, this airplane got to Marble Mountain in Vietnam in June of '68, and I left in May of '68, so I never flew on this one.
Okay.
But a friend of mine, and Jim knows him, named Ben Collins, flew this aircraft 8 times in Vietnam, and it got its name Patches because it was parked at Marble Mountain,
Yes, spin that around.
and a mortar round landed just to the right here of the airplane, and it put all these holes in the fuselage. That's why it's called patches.
Now they still kept flying it though after it got hit. Didn't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that didn't spoil the aerodynamics of the
No,
CH-53 at all.
It's got about 260 metal patches on it. That's what
Okay.
I call them.
Yeah, and we've got those outside, but this is a picture of it right after that. Now, you had some other pictures here of that same attack and what happened to other helicopters.
Yeah, in August of 1968, this is the VMO-2 hangar at Marble Mountain, and it took a direct hit in the roof. And here's an inside shot.
Okay.
And on our parking ramp, one of our 53s took a direct hit with a 120 millimeter rocket.
Now that's a big rocket, right?
Yeah, there's 120s and 140s. And this right here is our collection of rocket pieces.
Ah, okay. All right. So now, let's show us a little bit. Now, you were a door gunner on this airplane.
I flew port window, left side window at the 60.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there was a gun mount down here with a frame that held the M60 that pointed out the window.
Okay, a little bit slower. I'm not panning fast enough. So what was? Oh, we've got these pictures we can show folks. Here's Mike.
In 1968, on the left, I was at Marble Mountain as a gunner. And then 50 years later, I reshot the picture here at the museum on the right-hand side.
That's pretty cool. So, tell us a little bit about being a door gunner.
It was interesting.
Okay.
Like Richard Pryor said, fire is inspirational. Well, bullets are inspirational.
Okay.
Over here, about 3 feet to the left of the window, when I was flying at Quezon one time, I had 3 rounds run through the window. And as I lined up on the Viet Cong outside the wire, I keyed the ICS instead of pulling the trigger, and as the ICS keyed up, a twin 40 millimeter cannon on the perimeter turned and put 3 rounds in the berm where the DC was, and he disappeared. And the ICS keyed up, and I told the pilot, never mind, the grunts got him.
Oh, okay. Okay. So now, did you have a seat in here or something, or did you just stood here all the time? Now,
correct.
Takeoff and landing. Were you standing in the airplane for takeoff and landing?
Yeah.
So there wasn't any seating. You weren't putting yourself in one of these seats at all.
You stood all the time.
So let's go ahead and show folks the cockpit here just a little bit. We've got the door open, and so Mike is going to point some things out.
All right.
To us.
This cockpit is fully configured. When it came from Pensacola in 13, all that was missing was one 8-day clock and the co-pilot's rotor engine tack. And I took a photograph of the pilot's side tack, and what we got is a tuna can instrument. It's just the size of a tuna can with a glass front, and I put the picture photograph behind it, so if you look inside the cockpit,
okay. I'm going to give them a little bit more detail in here, and I'm going to show them the seats here in a minute, because the seats are got a kind of a weird shape to them, and I'm going to let you talk about that in a second, but I'm going to just pan through the instruments.
Pan to the left a little bit.
Okay.
The last instrument on the lower right-hand side is the co-pilot's engine rotor tack. And it's a copy of the one over here on the pilot's side.
Okay.
Which is the third instrument down above the 8-day clock.
Okay. So now the pilot in command sits in the right seat on this
Always
airplane,
on
right?
a helicopter, the pilot's on the right.
As opposed to in an airliner where he's in the left. So he's in the right seat here. Why is he on the right seat?
Because there's normally a winch outside the door on the right-hand side, and when they're doing winch work, the pilot can see what he's doing with the winch.
Okay.
And so pilots in helicopters always fly right seat.
So that's kind of a carryover, because the original helicopters only had single pilot, and then they went to 2. Right. But I'm going to see if I can back out so people can see these. Oops. That happens. We've had that happen before. That's all right. We'll find it. Don't worry about it. I've got spares. So at any rate, tell me a little bit about the seats. They've got these funny things that looks like elephant ears on them almost.
These are armor-plated seats, and they'll stop up to a 30 caliber round. That's to protect the flight crew, so firing from the rear, they're protected from shrapnel and bullets.
Okay, so this encases them. It's armor plated underneath, so they're sitting on armor plate?
They're sitting on armor plate.
Okay, and then they've got these big things around them that are kind of giving them some protection.
Correct.
But now I understand a lot of helicopter guys used to sit on their flak vests.
Right.
To give it a little bit more.
Especially the troops in here would sit on their flak vests, so they didn't catch something in there.
Okay, so they had a little bit more protection.
Right.
So is there anything else inside here that you'd like to talk about?
No, we don't need to go into details on stuff. But this hose right here is a in-flight, let's see what it's called, a ferry tank. The fuel tank on the floor to bring this hose down and connect it for like a ferry flight in long distance.
Oh, okay. So it was like for an auxiliary fuel tank.
Correct.
Okay.
And it ties into the fuel system right there.
Okay. Now I'm noticing we've got ducting overhead. Was this air conditioned or pressurized?
It was heating. This is the heater system. This airplane was never pressurized.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess not, because when the tail's closed, it's not actually sealed up, is it?
No.
Now, what kind of vehicles did you carry inside?
We could carry what they call mules. There was a little four-wheel cart with an engine, or jeeps, stuff like that. And what's interesting here at the museum, we've had numerous cars in here. I had an 04 Crossfire. I've had it in here. We've had a Mini Cooper, a Jeep Cherokee, Lamborghini, a whole bunch of Triumphs. Everybody wants to put their car in this airplane. That's why we have it parked in front of the gate.
Partly, yeah. Partly, yeah. But no, could you put a regular Jeep in here?
Absolutely.
And how about like a 105?
Normally 105s are carried externally.
Okay, now why would they do that? Anything particular, or
it's easier to get
it's just easier?
Yeah.
It's easier for placement, right? Because then you can just drop it, because a lot of those places are on tops of ridge lines or...
Just set it down in front of the
Okay, okay. And other than the Dumbo, that's pretty unusual. What other kind of unusual loads did you carry?
Well, one of the flights going into Quezon during the siege, a friend of mine named Harold Scott was the pilot, and this entire cargo bay was packed solid with toilet paper rolls.
Oh, jeez.
They had a shortage of toilet paper at Quezon during the siege, and he landed up there with this entire cargo area totally packed solid with toilet paper rolls.
Okay. I got a question here from Mike Leapeck. He said, is that table to the right a special mod to play spades on? No, actually it's a special mod because we do birthday parties in here now. So that's a table that we use for the kids to put presents or cakes or those kinds of things. And Mike, we were going to talk about this, but here's one of the stretchers. How many stretcher cases could you put in here?
18. We could put 18 stretchers in here. Matter of fact, my last flight in Vietnam was from Charlie Med in Da Nang out to the USS Repose hospital ship. We had 16 stretcher cases and 6 walking wounded.
People see this, it's just a strap that's holding up there to a fixture in the overhead, and then we've got these fixtures in the side of the airplane where the stretchers actually fit into it. Now, how about the medical crews? Where were they?
They just walked in here and stood.
So they just stood in here during the flights.
Correct.
And so it looks like there's enough fixtures here to be able to stack, what, 3?
We got 3 high.
Okay, 3 high, so a total of 18.
Well, actually, you could put a 4th on the floor.
Okay.
We could
Okay.
Let's see. That would make 24 in here.
Okay. So let's do a quick walk around the outside, but we got a few more minutes, and we can show them a little bit of the some of the patches or anything else that you think you'd like to talk about here today. Now, you were an avionics tech on this, right?
Correct.
So let's talk about that just a little bit. What was your job as an avionics guy?
Well, I was a comm nav person, which is communications and navigation.
Okay.
My specialty. So I worked on radios, TACANs, direction finders, stuff like that. You notice all these patches on the side of the fuel sponson. That's where the mortar round landed out here behind us and just blasted shrapnel into the airframe.
And Mike knows because he's been underneath. There's a lot of patches underneath this airplane, and I think we've counted them up. It's 251, 261, something like that. So, that kind of stuff. What else would you like to talk about out here on the outside of the airplane?
Oh,
anything else you want?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. I thought you were asking someone.
No. Well, if anybody's got questions, now's the time because we're getting close to our 20-minute time limit here. So
I'll open up an avionics bag.
Okay.
This is the right-hand side avionics bay.
Okay. So what was normally in here?
This is an ARN-52 TAC-N, and that's a receiver, a radio receiver.
I've got the door if you want to get a little closer so you can point them out.
This is a navigation direction finder right here. This is where a battery would have gone, a 36-volt battery. And here's some other gear. I forget what it is now, it's been so long. But I'll close this and we'll open the nose.
Okay.
Show you some gyros.
And Mike, we got another question from Mike Lepeck again.
Yeah.
He said this is a D model, right?
Well,
actually, no.
It's an A model on the starboard side and a D model on the port. Because after Vietnam, it went to
Here, let's step back so they can see the differences here.
It went to Memphis, Tennessee, Naval Air Technical Training Center as a training platform. So it could train people on A's and D's.
So this side, when it was in Vietnam, it was an A model, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is, you can see the A model on this side. It doesn't have the Desert One screens on the engine, and the pod here on the side is just wheel well and gas.
That was called an EAPS, which is engine air particle separator.
Okay, so let's go ahead and show them the compartment here in the front, and then we'll show them the D side. Fresh water?
Had a little rain here.
Yeah.
Okay, in here you can see there's a gyro over there. There's another directional gyro right here. And these are some flight control servos and amplifiers.
And so these things, this is all black box kind of stuff. So if you had a problem, you just take them out and take them into a workbench and just swap them out. Now, did you work on the black boxes in the squadron, or did they go to an intermediate maintenance level?
I was a TAC-N expert, so I either worked on them at our hangar or at H&MS 16.
Okay.
16.
All right, we're going to show you the other side here now. Let's see. Glad to see visitors on the ground. Yes, and so are we a lot. We're going to back up here a little bit so you can get the full effect here of this. Okay, so Mike, tell them about what makes this a D over here.
Yeah, the D model has the fuel sponson, and the D model had a 3,500 shaft horsepower engine. This one has the EAPS unit, engine air particle separator. In Vietnam, we also had EAPS on our A models because of the dusty conditions we flew in. But what it is the doors on the front would open in flight. They're closed right now. But what it would do it would suck air in through the sides, and every one of these little round holes would create a turbine, an air turbine, and it would blow the dirt out the exhaust pipe on the rear.
The big exhaust pipe or this little exhaust pipe?
This little exhaust pipe.
Okay. So the engine was getting essentially filtered or somewhat clean air.
Correct.
I understand a lot of this too was also because of the Desert One accident where so many of the airplanes went IFR going in for the rescue on the hostages, and they ingested an awful lot of sand and stuff and
they flew
lost
through
them.
a major sandstorm. And the Navy decided in that mission to take the EAPS off to save weight.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
So in a sense, they lost lives because they took the eaps off.
So how big is this fuel tank that we've got here?
It's about a 350 gallon.
So on a D, is it going to have one on each side?
Correct. A D would have one on each side.
Okay, so that's going to extend the range by how much would you suggest?
Oh, probably a couple hours.
Okay, okay,
We
good.
probably had about a 3-4 hour, flight time.
So we got a couple of names on the airplane. We're going to talk about those, and then we're going to sign off for today. But we've got Lieutenant Colonel Thomas M. Fine 3 IP is instructor pilot, and then the and then below that it says Mighty. So tell us about Tommy Fine.
Yeah, Tommy Fine was Tommy Fine the third, and his nickname was Mighty Fine. His father was Tommy Fine Jr., who was a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox.
Okay.
And I flew with Tommy in Vietnam. He was in our squadron. And he now lives over in Little Elm, about 5 miles from me. And he's been here at the museum and put his name on the co-pilot side.
Okay, and I want to show you all, this is the pitot tube. We've seen pitot tubes on every airplane. Helicopters have got them too. And you'll notice it's kind of up out of the way. It's in an area where the air is going to be undisturbed as it comes through there, or essentially undisturbed. And now we're going to talk about one more name on the airplane, and then we're going to sign off for the day. So we got Sergeant Mike Amtower, Old Me.
Old M.E. was my nickname because my initials are M.E. And I happened to be 22 years old, and everybody else was 18 or 19, so I was kind of the old guy.
The old guy. That's funny. So we're going to step back here, let you see the whole airplane a little bit more as we step back. Once again, thanks for joining us today. I'm glad we were able to have Mike here to be able to tell the story on this. We'll get Jim Wittenberg to do the F5 another day. But so this is our C-53 Alpha Delta, and Patches, as we refer to it here. Actually, it came to us with that name. We didn't make that up. It was already there. Sorry about the bad slewing around. So once again, from the Fun With Aviation Museum, home of the most touchable warbirds in Texas, Mike, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And we hope that you have a good Father's Day weekend for everybody. Stay safe. Come see us. We're still open Saturdays from 9 until 2. We're working on trying to get some of the museum opened up. But other than that, we got a great day out here today, and hope to see you soon. Thanks, folks.